This is phobia. Not everything makes sense. Some stories don't end. And the most disturbing truth does not make a sound. Listen closely.
A $5 bill and 3 quarters resting in the pocket of a dead body. That detail nagged at Detective Brunk as he stepped between the bodies. Why bring exact change to your own death? The mansion off El Camino Real was unnervingly quiet that March afternoon, save for the rustling of evidence technicians in paper shoe covers. No sound other than the whispered count as they tagged body after body. 14, 15, 16. The bodies lay in bunk beds throughout the 9,000 square foot house. Bodies settled under identical purple cloths like children playing. Black Nike sneakers poking out from under the beds. Faces peaceful against pillows. No blood, no wounds. Just empty bottles of phenobarbital, applesauce containers and vodka. 38, 39. Detective Brunk paused at a desktop computer still humming in the corner, its screen bathing the room in cobalt light. The web page displayed stars and galaxies with text about a level above human and escape via comet. Next to it sat a stack of tapes labeled exit statements. Word traveled fast in San Diego County. By sunset, news helicopters circled overhead, broadcasters struggling to explain what nobody understood. It may have been suicide. The farewell videos revealed they called it something else. Graduation day. This is the story of Heaven's Gate. Marshall Herf Applewhite had a voice made for sermons. Before the matching outfits and apocalyptic prophecies, he'd been a music professor with perfect pitch and a gift for performance. In another life, he might have stayed at the University of Alabama teaching Bach and Handel to undergraduates. Instead, in 1972, he met Bonnie Lou Nettles, a nurse with a sharp mind and interest in theosophy. Both were searchers, him reeling from a failed marriage and secret homosexual urges he couldn't reconcile with his Christian upbringing. Her drifting from traditional astrology toward fringe mysticism. They immediately recognized something in each other. It was like looking in a mirror, a friend later recalled Applewhite saying. Not physically, but deeper than that. Within months, they'd abandoned their former lives completely. Their families watched, bewildered, as they vanished into a spiritual partnership, neither romantic nor simply platonic. They took new names first, Guinea and Pig, then Bo and Peep, eventually Ty and Doe, shedding identities like unwanted clothing. By 1975, they were hosting recruitment meetings across the western states. The UFO2, some newspapers called them. Their pitch combined Christian salvation with sci-fi elements. Earth would soon be recycled. But they could help worthy students evolve beyond their human bodies and escape to a next-level kingdom. Physically, not metaphorically. Human bodies are just containers, Applewhite would explain, his piercing blue eyes rarely blinking. Vehicles for consciousness. Their early meetings drew hundreds. Some walked out laughing, others walked out with them, leaving families, careers, and possessions behind. One college professor abandoned tenure. A physician left his practice. A computer programmer disappeared, his car found abandoned with a note. I've gone to meet the Heavenly Father. When new members joined, they surrendered everything: money, past relationships, sexual identity, and autonomy. The method wasn't exactly brainwashing. Rather, as one religious scholar noted, it was a voluntary submission to an interpretation of reality seemingly so complete. It left no room for doubt or individual thought. Not a cult, they insisted, a class. And class was now in session. The language of Heaven's Gate lived between biblical prophecy and spacecraft operations manuals. Their cosmology wasn't derived from ancient texts, but built from scratch. A peculiar fusion of Christianity, science fiction, and evolutionary theory that made perfect sense only to those inside it. "Your eyes are covered with scales," Applewhite told followers in a grainy recruitment video, face gaunt against a black background. "We're offering the key to remove those scales." The next level, as they called it, wasn't heaven in any traditional sense. It was a literal physical realm where advanced beings existed without gender, without sexuality, without the mammalian traits that held souls trapped in lower evolution. These beings, Applewhite claimed he and Nettles were two of them, occasionally took human vehicles to help others prepare for advancement. Earth itself was merely their garden, a farming operation where human consciousness could be cultivated until ready for harvest. Satan, or Luciferians in their terminology, were malevolent space beings who kept humans trapped through attachment to their bodies, to sex and individuality. After Bonnie Nettles died from cancer in 1985, a potentially faith-shattering event, Applewhite reconstructed their beliefs again. She hadn't died, he explained. She had simply advanced ahead of them, leaving her failing vehicle behind while her consciousness returned to the next level. She was now helping prepare their arrival. "We're not saying this is true," Applewhite told members. "We're saying it is true." A chilling line crafted to blur the lines between faith and declared facts. Daily life in the group became structured around shedding human identity. Members adopted identical haircuts and wore shapeless clothes designed to hide their gender. They followed rigid schedules and adhered to minutely detailed behavior codes. Everything from how to sit, straight-backed, feet flat on the floor, to how to prepare sandwiches, precise measurements cut diagonally. They progressed toward complete detachment from their bodies. At first, this meant celibacy and gender-neutral appearance. Later, it included voluntary castration for male members. The final step, leaving their vehicles behind, wasn't presented as suicide, but as transcendence. "It's like an insect that has to break out of its chrysalis," a former member explained. "You don't say the butterfly killed the caterpillar, do you?" They never used the word cult. That was an outsider's term, weighed with judgment. To them it was the class, and the dynamic wasn't leader and followers, but teacher and students. Even the group's name evolved. Human individual metamorphosis became Total Overcomers Anonymous, then became Heaven's Gate. The changing names masked an unchanging purpose: complete transformation away from humanity. Inside, the group followed precise patterns. Members answered to new names: Sorodi, Gennady, Levodi, Drodi, the OD suffix identifying them as students still in process. They moved through each day according to detailed schedules, often sleeping in shifts to maintain 24-hour consciousness. Everything was paired, recalled one ex-member who left in the 1990s. 2 people cooking, 2 people shopping, 2 people going to the bathroom. We were never alone, not for 5 minutes. This constant companionship wasn't for fellowship. It was for surveillance. Check partners who monitored each other for signs of individuality or human-level thinking. Members confessed impure thoughts in group sessions, seeking help to overcome desires for food, sex, family, or independence. Striving meant erasing yourself. When a new recruit named Sawyer joined, he surrendered his previous identity completely. "I had to inventory everything I thought I was," he later explained, then systematically eliminate each item. Their diet was regulated to minimize pleasure, bland foods at scheduled times. Physical exercise was performed with mechanical precision, not enjoyment. Music, literature, and television were restricted to approved content. Even laughter, was discouraged except during designated humour periods. They willingly embraced this erasure. These weren't uneducated people being manipulated. The group included former teachers, a professional athlete, computer programmers, a licensed pilot, and several with advanced degrees. Intelligence offered no protection against the slow surrender of identity. Frank, who joined in 1975 and left 8 months later, described the gradual transformation. First, you give up seeing your family, then talking to outsiders, then your preferences about food, clothes, sleep. By the time they suggest something radical, you've already surrendered your judgment about what's reasonable. By the 1990s, this progression had reached its logical endpoint. 8 male members, including Applewhite himself, voluntarily underwent castration. Not because sexuality was sinful, but because it represented attachment to human form. The surgeon who performed some procedures later lost his medical license, having failed to provide psychological evaluation beforehand. "We're not becoming less," a member named Gilnody explained in their final video testimony. "We're becoming more." The human part was what they thought were leaving behind. In the mid-1990s, as the early internet bloomed, Heaven's Gate made an unexpected pivot. The group that rejected human society launched a web design company called Higher Source, creating sites for local San Diego businesses. Their clients found them oddly identical in appearance, but impeccably professional. They were always on time, always polite, and wore the same clothes, recalled a local realtor who hired them. Their work was top-notch. I just thought they were some kind of religious group, Buddhists maybe. The business served multiple purposes. It generated income, limited outside contact to professional interactions, and most importantly, gave them expertise to create their own digital presence. While other apocalyptic groups distributed pamphlets on street corners, Heaven's Gate built heavensgate.com, a cosmic-themed website with blinking stars against black space. "Red alert," the site proclaimed in its final form. Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Their manifesto migrated from physical to digital, reaching curious seekers worldwide. The site mixed HTML with eschatology, using terms like system upgrade and programming alongside soul and salvation. Behind their gateway computers in the Rancho Santa Fe mansion, the members created promotional videos too, with Applewhite, gaunt, head-shaved, eyes unnervingly wide, explaining their mission directly to camera. These weren't the grainy VHS warnings of typical doomsday prophets, but carefully produced digital messages designed for the emerging online world. In the background of these developments loomed comet Hale-Bopp, discovered in 1995 and predicted to make a spectacular appearance in the spring of 1997. When amateur astronomer Chuck Schramek claimed to have photographed a companion object following the comet, the Heaven's Gate members found their sign. The companion object was later confirmed as simply a star in the background. Applewhite became convinced that trailing behind this comet was a spacecraft sent to retrieve them. Despite astronomers quickly debunking the companion object, the group's belief remained unshaken. They had been waiting decades for the signal. Hale-Bopp was it. "Look, they're not going to broadcast this on CNN," a member explained in their final recorded statement. "The recycling of this planet is not something the powers that be want humans to know about." Their website shifted from recruitment to announcement. The time had come. The transit window was opening. After 22 years of preparation, the spacecraft was arriving to take them home. Unlike other apocalyptic groups who set dates that passed without incident, Heaven's Gate would not face the morning after their failed prophecy. They had a solution for that. They called it the exit, not suicide. The distinction was deep and mattered to them. This wasn't an end, but a beginning. Not death, but graduation. Not self-destruction, but self-completion. The language created distance between what they planned and what the world would call it. In early 1997, preparations were moving fast. Members recorded exit statements, calm, sometimes even cheerful testimonials explaining their decision. "We couldn't be happier about what we're about to do," said a woman with close-cropped grey hair, smiling into the camera. No tears, no doubts, just serene certainty. Rio D'Angelo, a member who left the group shortly before the end but maintained contact, later described their meticulous planning. The group purchased matching clothing, black shirts, sweatpants, and Nike Decade sneakers. They packed small bags with essentials for their journey, including those $5 bills and quarters found in their pockets. The $5 bill was for interplanetary toll, Rio later explained, though he didn't say whether he believed this or was repeating what he'd been told. The quarters were apparently for phone calls, though to whom or from where no one could say. According to medical examiner reports, the logistics were carefully orchestrated. The group divided into 3 teams of about 13 people each. The first team would exit, while the second team attended them, cleaning up afterward and arranging the bodies. Then the second team would follow, assisted by the third, until finally, the last team would complete the process alone. Each person ate pudding or applesauce mixed with phenobarbital, followed by vodka to enhance the sedative effect. They secured plastic bags around their heads to ensure asphyxiation as they lost consciousness. Those assisting would remove the bags afterward, arrange the body on the bed, and cover it with a purple cloth cut to specific dimensions. Between March 22nd and March 26th, 1997, they proceeded through this process with methodical care. The coroner's report noted no signs of coercion or struggle, no restraint marks, no indications of fear or pain. Each person, according to toxicology reports, had identical levels of phenobarbital and alcohol in their system. They have followed instructions precisely. Among the dead was Thomas Nichols, brother of actress Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek. The cosmic connection seemed almost too perfect. His sister portrayed a communications officer on a fictional starship. He died believing he was boarding a real one. In the final recordings, they were happy. Not manic or delusional, but genuinely, calmly pleased. "We've been looking forward to this for so long," said an older man on tape. The bunk beds were numbered. The departure sequence is predetermined. The purple shrouds pre-cut. The last to complete the process was Marshal Applewhite himself. Unlike the others, his body had no shroud covering it when discovered. There was no one left to perform that final act of care. On March 26, 1997, Rio D'Angelo received a package containing videotapes and a letter. The message was clear. It was done. He drove to the mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, but couldn't bring himself to enter. Instead, he called 911 from a nearby payphone. "This is about a mass suicide," he told the dispatcher, voice flat with shock. "I got a letter." The media response was immediate and overwhelming. News helicopters circled above the mansion as body bags emerged one by one. Heaven's Gate became headline news worldwide, not just another cult tragedy, but a uniquely American collision of technology, spirituality, and collective delusion that captured something about the approaching millennium. The mixture of New Age religion with computers makes this different from other cult suicides, said religious scholar Robert Elwood. They were forward-looking, not backward-looking. The videotapes they left behind proved particularly disturbing. There was no madness visible, no obvious coercion. The members spoke clearly, often smiling, sometimes joking lightly. "By the time you see this, we'll be gone. And good riddance, I say," one middle-aged woman said with a small laugh. "This world is not worth staying in." Inside the mansion, police found extraordinary order. Identical outfits laid out with military precision, personal belongings carefully packed in identical bags. Each member had exactly $5.75 in their pocket. Computer stations arranged in perfect rows, their driver's licenses altered to include the OD suffix after their legal names, as if their new identities required government documentation. "My daughter was brilliant," said the father of one member at her funeral. "How could she believe this?" He held up her undergraduate diploma in computer science. Its existence could not contradict the possibility of her choices. The website remained active after their deaths, maintained by former members who still believed but hadn't been ready to go. Through digital preservation, the voices of Heaven's Gate continue speaking into the ether. Police discovered application materials, forms, guidelines, and instructions. They had planned for future recruitment even while preparing for their own departures. The class might have ended, but the curriculum remained available for new students. Rancho Santa Fe tried to forget. The mansion was eventually demolished, its address changed, its memory erased from physical space. But in cyberspace, Heaven's Gate never really died. Their website remains functional, their videos viewable, their message still waiting for anyone seeking answers in the wrong places. Comet Hale-Bopp arced silently through our skies in 1997, oblivious to the deaths it inspired. The spaceship they awaited never existed, just a star misidentified in an amateur telescope, and a belief too resilient to surrender to fact. We dismiss Heaven's Gate as cultish delusion, but their search wasn't for death. They sought transcendence, belonging, certainty, things we all crave. They just went too far, crossed a line most of us instinctively recognize. "The only way to evacuate this earth," read the note found in one pocket. "Not escape, but evacuate, as if from a disaster, a sinking ship, a place beyond saving." 39 pairs of Nikes, 39 souls convinced they were shedding human form like an outgrown shell. The comet passed, but they did not return. I'm Eleanor Graves, and this was Phobia.
The story ends here. Don't expect answers. We return next week.